Hey, 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 welcome to the Therapists Deserve Abundance podcast. This is your host, Dr. TK. And today we are streaming live. I have an epic guest here. She is a Dope Therapist Academy alumni. She is an epic mental health therapist. She is licensed in multiple states. She is also a DTA support coach. If you don't know what DTA is, it is our Dope Therapist Academy Manifest a Profitable Private Practice program. And she is also known as a digital CEO. And so, before I welcome her on, I want you to strap on your seatbelts. It is going to be a fun and engaging conversation, not a typical, let me just interview her and ask her a lot of questions. But I want it to be more of an immersive experience. And so, if you have anything that comes up for you and it's questions, feel free to hop over to the comment box, ask your question, because one of the reasons why I asked her to come on is that I've been able to see her flourish and grow, at least as she's been a part of our community for the last 4 years, since she interviewed or got on a Zoom call with us, expressing interest in our academy. And you'll see in a moment how she pretty much got everything in order. And that's what we're going to be talking about today before she decided to throw spaghetti at the wall, like some entrepreneurs do, and say, I'm going to start all these streams of income at the same time. And then they either take off too quickly and we cannot handle them, or they're not taking off as we would like. And it's probably because we ran before we crawled. And so I want to welcome to the podcast show, Shayla.
Hello, everybody. Really excited.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So, and if you have to hop off early, a replay will be available because I know, it's different time zones. But let's just go ahead and shoot through these questions because this is a great topic. And so let's go all the way back. Can you first reintroduce yourself, let them know a little bit about who you are, and then go into your story about before you invested in any type of coaching, like what were you doing in work and or private practice?
Great. All right. So I am Shayla Peterson. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, currently licensed in 3 states. And I also have digital products, which I thoroughly enjoy sharing with other folks, whether they're on the purchasing end or even just learning about how to do the same thing. But before I even was introduced to private practice for my own self, right, going into my own private practice or having a digital product, like most of you guys, I worked for other private practice, foster family agency, the public defender's office. So if you name it, I've done it probably in the social service world. And I remember working for a private practice group when I was living in Tennessee. Remember, I told you guys I've been all over the place, right? I was living in Tennessee, and I remember we were on the phone with insurance, and we were just passing the phone for whoever didn't have a client because of insurance. And I said, I'm going to have a practice one day and I'm not going to take insurance. And so that's what birthed my private practice. And then that's also what led me to meet Dr. TK because there was a point where that private practice that was private pay or self pay was not paying. Things had slowed down a little bit and I needed some help. And so that's how I was introduced into the coaching world. And if there was like a time right before then, I also had a coach that taught me how to have a practice online. And that was before, that era went in where everybody was online. And so pretty much there's been, like 2 significant coaches in my life as it relates to that. Yep.
Nice. All right. So I love new intros. I always learn something new. I'm like, wait, public defender's office. I'm always listening to something I don't know. All right. So I'll fill people in as we go along with having a conversation. So I remember this because sometimes what tends to happen as to why we remember things more vividly is because of the times that we were in, right? So we ain't gonna live in 2020, but that's what happened. So I intended that year to open up the doors to the academy only twice because I had offered it once the previous year. Spent a lot of time with my beta launch. If you are into digital products, it's pretty much your training wheels to getting everything worked out in your first launch period with your first cohort of students. And I said, I'm only going to do it twice because I'm doing these other things in mental health. And, I have my hand in multiple pots. And so I put up on Instagram, that people could get on my calendar. And then I set up a system where they would be informed that they can put their deposit down, but that DTA ain't starting until May. So Shayla interviewed or spoke with me about DTA before March 15th of 2020. And she was like, I'm down. I want to get on the wait list. And I'm like, okay, cool. She was a great match. We put her on the list. And then within a few weeks, literally, we had shut down, at least in California. I think the whole world at that point had shut down. And so I decided to move up the enrollment for the period. And instead of starting, I'm sorry, it was supposed to go in July. And I end up moving it up to May, April. So we did an expedited, never heard of a cohort where they met every Saturday for 3 to 4 hours, everybody. But I mean, we locked in our house, so we ain't got nowhere to go. We can't go anywhere except the grocery store. And so I took full advantage of meeting on Saturdays. We have 15 out of 16 students who showed up for every single call. The one student who couldn't was working in her private practice and watched every single replay. And that was the birth of the first cohort during that time. So this morning, we had a DTA call, and I wanted to pull this into this conversation today. Circles of influence are really important. So when you go back to your first cohort, at least with our community, what do you think helped you all as a cohort thrive? Because I want therapists to know that even though private practice can feel lonely, it doesn't mean it needs to stay that way.
Yeah, so one of the things I think help us thrive, and I talked about it earlier in DTA, was like that we formed our accountability groups. So, and it'll be something that I say pretty often, even in therapy or in my coaching programs. I'll say like, we're not designed to do this by ourselves, right? And if you think about your place of worship, you're not designed to do that by yourself either. They call it fellowship, and so it's the same thing. So when you get together with other people, we're encouraging each other, high-fiving virtually at this time. We were even talking about planning things, like, hey, let's get together. Who's in the same state? But that was really helpful. And we were all at different levels. There were some people who were literally just starting a practice. I had already, my practice had already been established. There were some really at ground one. And so with all those different levels, we were still encouraging everyone. And any place that we can jump in, we were able to jump in, and we met regularly. So if we were at a DTA call on a Saturday, our accountability call was on a Wednesday at 6 p.m. and they were like 30 minutes. It wasn't long, but that investment in ourselves, it's almost like midweek service, right? So it's like you go to this event on Saturday, but then we have to check in and see, well, you said you were going to do this. Did you do it? Did you need some help? And we exchange numbers, all of those things, so we can even check on each other in between, on top of the things that Dr. TK had for us, like Telegram, all the resources, the worksheets, the mindset. So when you combine all that together with, hey, we had nowhere to go other than to go to the grocery store because it was the era that we were in, we had no choice but to strive and, keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So I want to dig deeper, because something that we've been talking about recently, at least in our community for the last few months, is complacency. And I redefined hustle. So like, hustle for some people, especially depending on, how you were raised, some people think hustle was like, get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, go to bed at 12 o'clock at night, team, no sleep. And I'm like, no, I love my sleep. I love like allowing my body to rest and reset. So I redefined what hustle means, at least for my household and our team, is that we are in a hustle season, because I think everybody probably should be in hustle season if you look at this inflation. But what we mean by it is we're going to work smarter, not harder, because the old school version, which is still some people's definition of hustle, is like, I ain't going to sleep until it's done. And granted, there are seasons for that. If you're like launching something, like we have sprints, but then other times of the year we have marathons. And so when you think about like growing your business, I think for a lot of people back then, it sprinted quite quickly. But what do you think was important to learn and implement in your business? Because there's going to be somebody that's listening and they already have a private practice. And sometimes when we already have a private practice and it's cash pay, sometimes we don't even want to get help. We just try to figure it out on our own. So like, what did your season look like to get the changes that you had at that time? Because you did a lot with your caseload at that time too.
Yes. At that time, my caseload had quadrupled. So one of the things I would say, whether you're in a hustle season or non-hustle season, however you define it, is like time management is going to be key, right? And so you can't do all the things, and you can't do all of them all in one day or 1 hour. So really get like real about how much can I get done in a day. And then from there, it's like, well, how much also? And you guys, if you've been through DTA, you know this delegation, okay, the D. So what can I delegate? What can I give to someone else? Because you don't want to feel burnt out. And the other thing is, even the things that you're doing, make sure that like it's in alignment with you. So why would I do something that I know that that's not like my genius zone, right? I'm going to get burnt out. So if I have to, like, I'm not a big blog article person. So if that's my way of growing my business or adding something new, that's not my jam. I would outsource that. Right now, I don't mind writing an email really quick because I feel like that's more personal. Right. So that's my jam. I can do that. So find like what you're aligned with, what's your jam, and then hustle in that area. And like Dr. TK said, like, look, we like our rest. I don't know. I'm at a different point in my life and age where I want the rest. I want to chill right after work. I want to rest for a second and then maybe get back into work or get up early, knock out some things, have an extended lunch, and then get back and do some work. So identifying what works for you and hustle in that zone. Not I'm about to do, I don't know, 18-hour days. That sounds crazy.
Okay. So you said something that intrigued me. And I'm sure it intrigues other people because, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs will say, I want to delegate or I don't, or they may start showing up this way like they're tired or they're burnt out. So when you think about your private practice, because I want to pave the way into talking about streams of income, I know in our community, no matter actually what program you're in with myself, I'm big, like my genius zone is operating systems. You know, I think you, I mean, I'm not saying you like paperwork, but I know you're a very organized person. I mean, look at her background, you know what I'm saying? And so not everybody has that automatic gift, right? To be organized. So I want to, you know, say that out loud. But at the same time, there are certain things that even if we learn the hard way, has to be in place for you to delegate and see the ROI on the investment you just made to hire a team. So, like when you start delegating, whether that be to a person or a company with a team of people, what did you notice over time? It doesn't matter what you delegated for. What did you notice needed to be in place before they did their job well, like in your back office?
Well, I would say your mainstream has to be in order, right? So if your mainstream is your private practice, have that running really well before you start adding other things into place. The other thing is when we start to delegate or ask our VAs or team members or your cousin, whoever it may be that you have hired to help you, if you can't explain it, how are they going to do it?
Mhm.
Right? So you really want to be clear about what that task is. I'm not saying that you have to know how to do it from A to B, but you have to be able to explain it to them so they can carry it out. I still run into that to this day because my brain operates a certain way. So I just assume people understand some of the things in the middle. And so I have to slow down so I can explain it to them, right? Even my kids. For certain things as it relates to home, like what are we doing? So I have to slow down, right? So we think about it, slow down to speed up. So whether we're talking about our practice, another stream of income, just slow it down so you can explain it. So then we can give that to someone else.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Because I know that you've done delegation a lot. So let me just fill in some, I'm gonna say some holes to the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So when Shayla joined DTA, I don't, did you join the tribe after DTA or before DTA? Do you remember?
It was simultaneous, I think,
Same
because
time.
because DTA, like we said, was going to start a little later. So then
Yeah.
I jumped in the tribe, and then DTA started.
Okay. So I wanted to highlight this because what tends to happen now, because there's so much information and programs online in 2024, you know, I think that in 2024, some people are a lot more conservative with where they choose to place their money out of inflation, fear, and how some of our community people say being burnt, you know, get that. That's a whole other podcast episode. But I also think that we as therapists still have so, I mean, people have so many ideas. And especially if you really are good at multiple things, which I believe everybody is, it's more about how you say it, commitment and prioritization, right? So the timeline was when we were on the wait list for DTA starting before the whole, you know, crap show, you joined the tribe. The tribe was exposure to what is possible because I started noticing that therapists were like, how did you do coaching? How do you do email marketing? What is social media? Like all these kind of things. And so I'm like, let me just create a hub where we meet once a month and we talk about whatever your questions are, but you know, it's topic specific. So what we started to notice was that from my perspective, because I keep metrics, I know my numbers. I noticed that the therapists who performed well were the therapists who were taking full advantage of, if they were in an accountability group, they were moving faster with the help of their circle, just like highlighting the traits of the people. You all, I noticed, were building systems in your business because your desire was truly to leverage your time. Some people say, I want to work less and earn more, but that's not showing up with how you're showing up. But a lot of people in your cohort was showing up that way. So Shayla went from the tribe simultaneously doing the academy. Then I noticed at some point, some of them weren't showing up for the membership, which granted, this is why it dissolved, by the way, because I noticed that therapists couldn't hold learning two things at the same time. So I removed the tribe off everybody's plate after I think 10 months. And then I opted to have a live event, not knowing what was going to happen in November of 2020. And you came to the live event, and then later on you went into the mastermind, which we'll get into. So therapists see us having live events. Can you talk a little bit about the power of, again, that circle, but now being in person beyond online? Like, what does that do for you as a business owner?
I'm a people person, right? I like being around people. I'm a talker, like all the things. So when we got together, that was, just imagine our calls on steroids, if that's a thing that we can say today in time, right? And so if you're talking about, we had a good time on Saturday for 3 hours, and even when you would do your CE workshops, so then we had 6 hours when we were on a workshop call. So now here it is, we're in person. So just imagine a 2-day, 3-day workshop with Dr. TK in person. So that means we're getting up, we're doing this work, and it's just like in your face, like there's no hiding, there's no camera, you can't turn your camera off. It's like, so you said you wanted another stream of income, what is it? Oh, you want to promote this? Oh, well, we've noticed one of the things, and I say this all the time, I went to the mastermind in Vegas, the first one, 2020 November, and I was going to get more ideas about how to promote my book, Hey Sis. And I left with a whole membership. Why? Because not that I wasn't excited about Hey Sis, because I'm very much excited, and that has definitely become a business card for me, right? But I lit up about working with other therapists dealing with this professional isolation that was exacerbated because we were in the era that we were in. And I was so excited with that. That's what grew.
Yeah.
Then thus, if I fast forward a little too fast, of another digital type of product, right? There was a membership that was developed out of it, which is now 4 years old, right? Because of that. And if I never would have got in front of my peers to challenge me or even see that my affect was different, right? You see, I'm throwing in these therapeutic terms, right?
Yeah.
My affect was different when I talked about certain things. Who would have ever checked me behind the screen here? Who would have said that? Like, Shayla, you know what? So that's what I think the power of those in-person events, the energy that's there. It was just amazing. It's kind of, I don't know, just the energy.
I mean, it's different. I mean, we can't explain it. And some people see it's only until I put up 5,000 highlights. A lot of the highlights have been taken it down. But I mean, I'm gonna probably start putting up some older ones now that we're entering into a new season. But when people started to see, like, oh, wait, they walked away with a whole program. So just to put things in perspective, because she's being generous. So yeah, she walked away with a whole membership. It was 6 people, I believe, in the room, because I think 5 other people couldn't come because we had restrictions around health, if you get me, during that time. If you cough, don't come, like, kind of thing. And so, people opted out by signing a waiver. And so it was interesting because the 6 people who came, every single last person left and launched something for Black Friday. And to put things in more perspective, we went on Veterans Day weekend. So they came on Veterans Day, and then they stayed, I believe, 2 days after Veterans Day, or went into Veterans Day. Whatever the case may be, they had 12 to 13 days to go home. For my digital product people, they had to build, or they chose to, because I said, if you really want some money, this is what I want you to do. So I taught them how to build a landing page. They learned a little bit about email marketing, but it's not like they learned email marketing more when they got into the mastermind, right? Of how to do it. So they learned email marketing. They actually had to go, as Shayla talked about earlier, they had to write out the whole email sequence. That's when, and I'm actually asking you about this, that's when they realized why I emailed them so much after they went to a webinar. So can you explain that to the general public so that they don't think I'm just like a crazy person emailing them all the time?
Yes, but if you do think that, you are not the only one, but we're going to get you to change your mind. So even being part of when I got into Dr. TK's funnel, now I'm talking coaching and stuff, right? I was like, there's so many emails. I was like, oh my goodness, like, what am I missing? And I want to see all the, I want to sign up and see what's going on because I knew she just had a wealth of knowledge, but I didn't understand. I was like, so we get so many emails. And so when I went to, well, this is now more ECM, learning about the email marketing. And then when I started my own programs and having to email, potential clients and nurturing them and nurturing your email list, because you just don't launch the same day you send that first email. Okay.
Right.
So learning that, and now I was like, oh my goodness, I get it. And now I also appreciate it. But even the behind the scenes of like, hey, you can unsubscribe to certain things that does not pertain to you. That might not be your person, right? Your ideal, client or person for that program. They might be for something else. You might have a general email list that go to different people. I have about 3 different segments, and that's just the minimum ones. That's not even the sub. So I get it. Look, and no one takes it offensively if you unsubscribe. It's okay. But if you really want to be successful and start to grow your digital products, which is one of my things that I talk about, I said marketing is going to be key. Identifying who your audience is and marketing. And we talk about what Facebook as a marketing place, IG as a marketing place, YouTube. But if you don't have a place to send them, and where we're sending them is to your landing page, which will then put them on your email list. What are you doing? It's cool if you have a nice page, but where are they going? I can care less about all those other things. Get on my email list so then we can really stay in contact. Get these weekly emails that cheer you on about something that is related to what you want, that that I have that information. So yes, that email marketing.
A little deeper on email marketing. I usually do this on the boot camp, but let me do it early just in case I don't know somebody not going to be on boot camp. So some people are watching live. If you have the ability to put it in the comment box, go ahead and do that. Let us know if you have a Amazon cart or some type of online shopping cart with items in there, right? And all of us can probably raise our hand. Like I got like 5,000 like things in Amazon on, I'll buy it later, or just sitting in the cart. I'm on Fashion Nova, Shein, wherever you shop. And so if you think about it from that store's perspective, what do? It's called abandoned cart, right? They email us. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, and I noticed that when I started to explain this, when I would have boot camps that started the enrollment phase of like DTA, for example, I actually noticed, y'all, whoever has email lists, that people stopped unsubscribing at a high rate because they were prepared about what's going to happen. So let me just piggyback on what Shayla talked about and give y'all just a little bit of knowledge beyond the unsubscribe if you're not aligned anymore, right? Let's just say I'm having the boot camp, or Shayla has something because she coaches therapists for memberships, right? Very specific and niche down. Okay. You go to her 1-day webinar, you come to my 3-day webinar. When you exchange your name and email address, we're going to give you something in exchange. So like if you go to Macy's, you say, here's my email address to give me 15% off my next purchase, right? It's the exact same thing. But I find it very fascinating that as human beings, we never scold wherever you shop, Nordstrom's, Amazon. You don't go in there and shut down your Amazon account. You don't tell Macy's, let me talk to the HR or the operations person who emailing me every Saturday about a 1-day sale. You know what I'm saying? Like all we do is say, Macy's always got a 1-day sale every Saturday. I'm just going to ignore it or I'll archive it, but you don't go and unsubscribe from a lot of things that you get. So yeah, unsubscribe from things you're not aligned with, but digital products works the exact same way. So let's just say you're in now Shayla's funnel. Shayla gives you a checklist of what makes the membership successful, whatever membership program successful. I give you something on business plan checklist for private practice. Then you're in our funnel. When we launch a program, typically after maybe we go live or you see some more valuable information, you're going to get I cannot say this slower, right? You're going to get a series of emails in a very short period of time that all send you to a sales page. Now, you may be asking, why are you emailing me so much? Well, it's the Amazon effect. How long have you had the things in your Amazon cart? Since Christmas of 2021? And you keep saying, I'm going to get a different color sweatsuit and I'm going to get it later. You're not, because you forget you're human. You go pick up your kid from school. So we may send you an email and you're literally in your car going to get your nails done. You're not going to be thinking about that getting your nails done. I hope not. Right? So you may say, I'm going to do it when I get home, but you don't. But it's the end of enrollment. So not only are we going to send you an email in the morning, if you haven't signed up, we're going to send you an email in the middle of the day. And if you still ain't signed up on the last day of open enrollment, we're going to send you an email at the end of the day. Why? Because I kid you not, every single program that I launch that has a closed period, I will get a sale between 8 p.m. and 11:45 p.m. The last one we had, somebody signed up at 11:58. And I said, and they weren't even on the West Coast. I said, oh, they just waiting up to 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, this is crazy. But I just want to
It
share that
happens.
because email marketing is a serious thing, even though you may be annoyed by it. When you want to see your business grow, you cannot rely on a platform that don't even show your posts. Okay.
Hello.
So just be clear, and you're getting people off social media, right? So you can build a relationship with them. So let's dive back into like systems, streams of income. So let's just say these people are on here, they're listening to this, or you went to a live event, you got the information. What kind of mindset did you have at that time to execute a launch in like 12 to 13 days? Because that's not the person who came into the room. You left another person. You left as another person.
No, one of the things I guess in preparation, I'll always say is like make sure your mainstream is mainstreaming, right? That is going well and it doesn't really need you to be in the middle of it, right? So that was it. So I was able to go in with a clear mind and like a brain of to expectancy, right? That I knew I was gonna leave with something. So that's one thing, is like I knew I was gonna leave with some type of plan. And then two, what we learned over those next couple of days was like, well, where are you at in the process? Are you ready to do this? Do you have the time? What systems do you need, right? Do you need a CRM, right? Your customer relationship management system. I think I may have messed that up, but it's called a CRM, right? This is who house your emails. So if I'm going to start sending out emails to let people know whether it's about my book or a program that I'm offering, how they're going to house my email. You can't do just blind copy, okay? Right? There's a system there, so people can unsubscribe if they choose to. What are my emails? Do I know at least the basic about emailing people and having them like to start nurturing them? So when I do get ready to sell in November, right, for Black Friday. The other thing is connecting with my colleagues, right, with my other therapist friends that were part of that. So let's encourage you to give me feedback. Let me know, does this sound like something that you would be interested in, and vice versa. I was ready to give them feedback and not just fluff stuff, like for real, like, I don't know, something's missing. Like, I wouldn't sign up for that. Like, I don't know, I have those already. So what else? Who's your audience, right? Because I might not sign up for it, but who's their audience? Their audience might need it. So really start getting like digging deep, and then also expecting people to dig deep for you as well, because we don't want to be surface. That we're done with that. So being ready to make those changes and implement them and not being offended by it. So
you said a
just
key word.
being ready to learn.
Let's go to implementation. Let me turn this light
Yeah.
up. Implementation. Brought that up today in the meeting, but we're not going to recap that DTA call. That was deep. And so implementation there. So you had mentioned it earlier too, like some of you are following, well, all of us are following somebody. You may see somebody offer different types of products or services. Now, granted, like for me, if you follow me, I wasn't always that way. I was offering only private practice at some point, and then I started building over time, right? So we may get a little excited because let's just say you already had a book, you already had a digital product, you already got a private practice. So you may say, give me all three. That can be very dangerous. And so when we talk about implementation in the new hustle season, however you define it, and not being complacent, what tips can you provide to the therapist who does have their hand in multiple pots? Because I know one thing you're probably going to say is like, make sure the first stream is streaming. But let's start from the basics. If we looked at private practice and that's where somebody wants to be or where they are, what are like 2 to 3 top things that need to be in place before they start skirting over here to digital products or anything else, like just categories of things?
Okay. So no, great. So we already know mainstream is streaming, right? So then we have your support team, right? Have your team in place. Who's going to help you carry this out? And I think I said it before, but I think that one was so important because in the beginning, I didn't have that. Even though I knew that that was something important, it was like, that light bulb comes in like, oh, wait, there's still only 24 hours in a day. And I may not require a lot of sleep, but I do have to close my eyes at some point. right? Because I am someone who can like go to bed late and like get up early. Now it's changing a little bit. So you want to have your team because they can do some of those other things for you that you, I don't know, that you might not want to do, right? Or that's not your jam. The other thing too is thinking about which one, because when you say implementation, is like which one lights you up. So there's a saying I always go, you can't have all the fires on high. So when you're cooking something, some got to be on simmer. The greens in the back, the black eyed peas, but everything can be high. So which one do you want to turn up the fire on? Is it your physical product? Is it your membership? Is it a digital product because there's a class that you have, right? And so, and then when you think about that, what's all that's in there? In this pot that's on high, what's all in there? What are the ingredients? So if you have a membership, okay, who am I marketing to? Do you have that in place? How are you going to market it? Even if you have the membership all together because it's a class that you taught already, right? And you just broke it down. How am I going to market to these people? When am I going to do it? What's my launch date? Right? So you want to think about all of those things because now you're adding something different that wasn't part of your day to day with your practice. And then you're saying, oh, I wrote a book. I want to put that out there too. Well, when? Now, there's one technique that I learned. I learned this from Dr. TK too. Is like, do your 90-day focus, right? She may call it something else. My brain likes to change things
90 days,
around.
91, 90 days, whatever you call it, it does 90 days.
So, look, this fire that's on high, that's your 90 days. Then when we get that going, you can put that on simmer and then we can move somewhere else on the oven, right? And then you can turn that up for the next 90 days. And typically, unless you have a bomb range, you only got about 4 fires. So that is your whole quarter right there. So you just think about, you can do all of it. So you can launch 4 things in a year, or you can launch one thing 4 times if you like. But we just have to decide what that is. And I want to say, really think about being strategic about it and like what's your jam and what gets you excited, because we were saying people are being more, I think Dr. TK used another word, but I want to say people are being more intentional about how they spend their money, right? Because of the season that we're in. So if they're being more intentional about how they're spending their money, you're going to have to be more intentional about what you're putting out as well. So then it can match up.
Yeah.
Right. We just don't want to put things out just because, and people are being particular or putting all 4 out because they're not going to choose. A confused mind does not buy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was gonna add to that, just with like the overstimulation of the online world right now. Like, be very mindful and careful. I mean, personally, I like to look up people's journey, right? If I come across a digital creator, an influencer, or someone who I vibe with, even if it's about Disney. I was literally upstairs right now watching Disney World vlogs about a toddler. I ain't got no 3-year-old, but she was giving some good information. But I went back literally to her feed and said, what was her first video? What was her journey? Because sometimes the whole analogy I give of not comparing your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 10, be very mindful of what advice or tips you're taking from people online. Because one of the ones that's cracking me up right now, and I ain't talked about it to our community, but I mean, y'all listening right now, I'm like, people are saying, don't post every day. And I'm like, I get where they're coming from based off of the quote unquote algorithm. But at the same time, I'm sitting here looking at you got 500,000 followers. Meanwhile, somebody else got 1,000. That person with 1,000 don't have that much pull for everybody to be seeing their stuff. So just be very careful about, as Shayla talked about, even with the 4 burners, just because you may be in the mental health field for 10 years and you've made all this money does not mean that you're productive in scaling your business. The difference between grow versus scale, which was the differences between the academy and the mastermind, and that live event was in the middle for a reason, to tease them, to say, if you really want to scale, these are all the ingredients. I like that analogy. I'll throw at you, verbally vomit on you in the next 72 hours. We're going to implement 10% of each. And your job is to go home and choose one product and go burn the stove. You know what I'm saying? Like, go light it up. You know what I'm saying? And then if you need support, join the mastermind, But I just find it very interesting that, sometimes we use our titles because we've been to school for a long time. We use our licensure status. And sometimes we allow that to inflate our ego and not say, you know what? I don't know this. This is difficult for me. How can I find a more simpler, less tech way? Because what they saying, I don't understand. I need to go back to the basics, even if I have made money, because grow is your money is going up, but so are your hours. That is the difference. Scale is over time with systems and team in place. And team ain't got to be 20 people. It can be a good 3 people, right? Depending on what you're doing. But what you will start noticing over time is that you may put in hours in the beginning, and then you're going to see a big jump in revenue, but your hours are going to go down. Why? Because you have systems in place to onboard a team member or onboard somebody else's company. You know how to articulate what you need from them, and then you're able to give feedback and not run people away either, because what that's called is leadership skills. And just because you're a good therapist, just like what we say, just because you're a good therapist doesn't make you a supervisor, like a good one. Well, I'm going to say the same thing about entrepreneurship. Just because you can be a great teacher doesn't make you a great coach. It takes patience. If you see, I don't never bring this up. I don't know if you've seen it, but like, y'all see the stuff that goes on the bottom of our Facebook ads, YouTube videos, what's emailed to us about just like people just projecting onto us what they believe we should be doing in the mental health field. Some people can't tolerate it. So also be very careful about what you're praying that you want, because if you don't have the net to catch all these multiple 6 figures in a year, or 7 figures for some of my big dreamers, if you don't have the net to catch it with systems and a team in place, you're going to be like the lottery winner. And believe me, been there. You will gain all this momentum, you will earn all this money, and you can lose it the next because you're not prepared, right?
It's
So
almost like, oh, I
yeah,
was saying, like, if you're, and that's why I think I talk about your mainstream has to be maining, maining with
yeah,
your systems, all things, because if that's not right, those same things are going to be transferable in your other streams of income. And so I say this one a lot, like if I'm doing like consulting with other behavioral health companies, and maybe somebody's not turning in their notes or doing whatever they're supposed to do, and they're sharing their dreams with me on the side, and I'm like high-fiving them, but I'm like, look, sis, let me tell you something. If you don't do this right here, like, we all have to, and I have a different philosophy. I believe that you have to serve, right? Follow, however you want to use it, before you lead. So if you don't get this right here, how do you think it's going to translate later? And
mhm,
that's anybody. I say that in the programs I'm in. If you jump even on the code, like, listen so you can learn and implement, so then you can go and teach too. I don't want to keep this all to myself. Let's do it that way. But you have to be able to serve and follow so you can be a leader as well. So if that's you owning your own practice, if that's you starting your own coaching business, or even a book, all the things, whatever it may be, there's
mhm.
still a time where you're going to have to serve. You can't skip that step.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was going to add too with what you just said, like have realistic expectations. After a while, I think that most people, they don't say it out loud, but most people know that where they are is probably their cap. And what I mean
Mm,
by that is you may be around other people that say, nah, I want to earn like 250 like a year. But the question would be, are you showing up as the person who's earning 250? So like a running joke that we had this morning clearly was about procrastination, because a lot of people procrastinate, don't prioritize nothing, just roll out of bed still after they've made an investment. And I'm like, what? Like that is not, I pay $10 and be on every call. And so same thing, let's look at the employeeship, right? All of us have
mm,
been placed at internships, practicum, whatever you want to call it. If you didn't like paperwork back then, because that's what you told yourself, that's a narrative. You don't have to live
mhm,
that way. Why do you think you don't like paperwork having your own practice? Please note, as Shayla mentioned earlier, you also cannot just get up and hire someone to do all these things and you don't like it enough to learn it just a little bit so that you can also know that they're doing it correctly. That is key when we're talking about teams. Because when we think of, we're going to go into digital product land for a second, but when we think about like email marketing, a lot of, I mean, you saw it in y'all cohort because I was on y'all, but I'm like, so y'all just not going to log into the portal? You know what I'm saying? But we have the same thing now. It's been, we're going on for 4 years, email marketing,
mhm,
and clinicians fail to log in, but then they'll come to our digital side hustle club. They may come to your membership. They come to these webinars and say, but I put my product out, ain't nobody buying it. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I see this all day long in every digital product program I've ran. And I'm just like, tell me your launch date. And they like, well, I think, I'm like, I don't say that, but you know, like that's in my head. I'm like, how long have you been promoting it? I mean, I posted how many times? Oh, I gave you a debriefing step. Did you do the debriefing? That's not it. Like they don't say this, but I'm like they treat it like it's not important to look at like a report card of what they just did. And I know your cohort, y'all asked for a debriefing session. I volunteered it, and y'all were like, "I'll do
Yeah.
an extra call." And just to let
Yeah.
y'all know, this is how I can tell successful success. I can smell it like from a mile away. They were already meeting, I think, twice a month, if not more than that, because I was teaching live in the mastermind. And I
Mhm.
said, how many of you all want to do a real debriefing report on your most recent launch? Meaning, don't sign up if you have not tracked your numbers. So they had to track their numbers. They went and launched. I think you launched a membership and maybe even a course at that time.
I think
Other
it was
people,
the course.
and out of a cohort of 21, y'all, but granted, our cohort was group practice as well. So let's just say 10. Out of 10 or 11 people who had digital products, only 4 people came to that live 2 hour debriefing. But what's crazy is once y'all came to the debriefing, I remember everybody walked away feeling so successful
You
because
changed the game. And that's what you're talking about. I'm gonna tell you how it changed for me. It changed the way I looked at debriefing.
yeah, yeah, you got to know what's happening. And please note, even though we may say debriefing as it relates to digital products, I'm going to use it interchangeably. Debriefing is also about how many client calls did you get this month in your private practice. The reason why your practice may be slowing down is because you caught it 6 months too late. And now you're looking at your account being overdrawn. I know when our recurring revenue is slowing down because I can log into our platform every day and look at it go up or go down. I got a money date, you know? So can you tell them a little bit about now that we've explored private practice and kind of jumped around with email marketing and stuff? Can you let them know where you are now? Because I want them to see what's possible, but that it was not overnight at all.
No, there's no such thing. If someone tells you that there's an overnight success, then just go and close the door and go the other way. So, because if overnight success is a 4 year process, then okay, yeah, that's my jam, right? And so it's literally that. And then if you want to be real about it, it really wasn't just 4 years because I feel like everything to like where we are today has led us there, right? So it was when I was in the private practice and was like, oh no, I'm not going to take insurance. And then I was in my own where I took only cash pay. And then to reach out to Dr. TK, who introduced me to create systems because I didn't have systems, right? Like my consultation was a whole hour, y'all. That's how I know how to teach y'all about these 15-minute consultations. So, and then it was like, I hope hope they want to work with me. And sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. So I'm like, wait a minute. But anywho, I say all those things that leads up. So going to the in live mastermind, and creating the membership, which also led to that growing each launch. Why? Because I went through the 4 phases, right? The the launch, and then that post launch, which is called debriefing, which is the most important of them all. So learning those things taught me how to launch another time. Because if you're doing the same thing over and over again and it's not working, now we're just in sanity mode and you're wasting not only your money, but your time, which is way more important to me than any money that somebody can give me. Don't waste my time, right? So learning those things, also having digital courses, being a support coach with DTA, which also gives me a time just to like refine my skills as well, and still getting to learn from Dr. TK, ECM, connecting with other therapists now allows me to, one, have a private practice, right? Two, have a membership, also teach therapists how to have a membership, but also because of my knowledge that I've gained over the last 20 years, is I get contracts with other behavioral health companies to do consulting, doing my own thing, working my hours, helping them from things that I can see from my eye because of
Yeah.
my details, right? So I want you to learn like what your jam is, what you're aligned with, what excites you, and keep moving in that direction. And if it doesn't, it's okay to say goodbye to that.
Yeah.
Like it's so okay to release that, right? Whatever that may be. So that's where, I am.
I mean, so I'm like, I keep repainting the journey because again, some people see chapter 10. And so, yeah, you had a journey before, I'm gonna say our chapter one together because you had a chapter before then. But if I could just like throw some things out there because I do want people to know, like when I say I'm a case manager at heart, I know that I'm not the coach for everything because that would not be in my genius zone, right? So at times
Mhm.
they would ask me about Facebook ads. I'm like, if y'all going to New York for the mastermind, I'll bring somebody there, which I did. I'll tell you how I run my Facebook ads, but I'm not going to show you how to create all these steps in Facebook ads. That's a whole semester course, if not more, right? So what I want to share that we do, I'm gonna say very uniquely in our community, because honestly, and people have the right to do so. Like some people don't share resources at all. They're like, nope, if you can't get it from me, I ain't like you on your own, follow the
Mhm.
breadcrumbs. And so when we look at private practice, we have a very good space. And what I mean by great is actually exceptional, meaning we offer, at least in our private practice program, we offer what's called a hybrid program. So, like Shayla's a support coach. We have another new support coach in the program. They're all alumni. They've walked the talk. Everything that they teach, they've built out. And then they were like, oh, can I teach this? Because I figured out something that works for me. And she's been a support coach for 2 years. So, hybrid is Facebook community, DTA live calls, and then the online course portal. And the purpose of the portal, unlike where Shayla and them came in and everything was live, now everything is self-paced. You just come to get support on the coaching call, kind of like your personalized access, right? But utilize it. Then we have the Digital Side Hustle Club, and I want to pull in like all the things that Shayla has done, as someone who is listening to this with a digital product idea, right? Because I think we did this after the conference too, or during the conference and after the conference. So somebody may be a therapist where they're like, I don't even know if I want to do digital products. I'm not sure. I think I got something in Canva that I could sell as a workbook. Okay, then check out the Digital Side Hustle Club. What I noticed with Shayla, that even if it wasn't intentional, it happened in a very intentional manner, right? And I want to highlight this so that people can hear this, is that she worked on building the boat for her private practice. She made sure that she knew obstacles are going to continue to come up. So please hear that. Your business will never be perfect. She
Mhm.
created systems in her business so that when she hit a bump in the road, she knew how to plug it up. That is our ship analogy. Once her business was steady with referrals and she knew how to get them, right? Meaning if it slowed down, she know how to get them some more, at least in different seasons. Then she said, okay, let me go and launch my book, because my book is an extension of my private practice. Then she went to a live event. I hope y'all see the timeline. And she was
Mhm.
like, oh, wait, there's more, and I have a gift. And da, 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 so she launched the membership and did that quite swiftly, and then fell in love with it and kept doing it over and over again. After about a year, I started partnering with so I'm a case manager. If I see that you have a need and I know that you're committed to it, I will hyper focus you on getting with one of my mentors if it's something that I don't do. So there are certain people like Shayla who I know are married to a digital product. They're not just doing it just to get some cash. Like they want it to be part of their
Mhm.
business product suite forever, as long as they work it, right? So when I saw the commitment from her a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, I
Mhm.
introduced Business by Design, my mentor, because this program only opens up y'all once a year, and you'll hear me talk about it more probably in the next 30 days. So I wanted her to go beyond a digital side hustle club, because she wants a coaching program. And this is why I say, like, Dope Therapist Tribe ain't gonna prepare you to have a whole coaching program. That's what the mastermind was for, or his program if you just only want to do digital products. And Shayla, I think it took, like, you did the first round, like his stuff, like some of his stuff. And then the second year, I think you had launched with 3 to 4 digital products at that time or something, for mental health and for like just coaching for therapists.
Yes.
And then you were like, oh my God. Like you got into his portal and you were like, all of this makes so much sense.
Makes sense. Oh my goodness. It really makes, and thank you yet again for, keep like, gently push me like, hey, James Wetmore program, da, da, da. I'll even help you once you sign up. Because you also gave us 3 additional like workshops for, being affiliate, right? If you're going to talk about that today. But I appreciate it because it literally all made sense, even from your workshops, how you set things up, how there's this system, right? And I was like, how do people just do this? They just throw it together and nothing's ever thrown together. Don't think that someone just threw something together. Believe me, there is a system. And if it's not, that's too bad.
Well, that's
So
the
there's a system.
if they're
Mhm.
successful, they have a system, because some people do throw stuff together.
Yes. And it may happen the first time. You may get lucky. So, but really, it all made sense. And I started to see where there was some learning that I still needed and things that I missed along the way because
Mhm.
I hadn't had James yet. I was getting it from Dr. TK, but that's not what her program was focused on. So we get some of it, but to get his full effect. And then that's where I had my first five figure, right? Is we say without saying all the numbers.
Yeah.
But my first five figure launch, right? And then was able to, do something very similar again and learning so I can rinse and repeat and do things over and over and over again as I continue to refine myself as a digital CEO. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So let me just recap what we're talking about here. We're in a season where people are cautious about how they invest, which is a good thing. Um, I prefer for therapists not to just join a four-figure program, which is considered high ticketed. Anything over $1,000 is high ticketed. And if you're not like some people maybe write down, oh, James Wedmore, business by design, like I guarantee you, somebody write it down right now, which is cool. But at the same time, if you're not committed to seeing a launch fully through and seeing it not go as planned all the way through and doing it again and again and again, please stop throwing thousands of dollars down the drain because that's not the coach's problem, that's your problem. And I say that because I've been doing a lot of podcasts around financial integrity and more importantly, being a responsible business owner. No one told you to get happy swipe fingers and just sign up for everything that comes in front of you. So, what I would encourage people to do, and that's why I wanted to share her journey on here, is be intentional about your decisions. If you know you just want to try out a digital product, then try it out in the Digital Side Hustle Club. Because if you can't even tolerate, I'm gonna be real, because people who did BBD know what that portal looked like. Hello. So if you cannot tolerate either a Kajabi portal or my private podcast on the go, which is the Kajabi portal, if you cannot tolerate listening or watching 8 lessons that are less than 15 minutes each, just to know what digital product you want to create, make a decision, and learn the 4 launch phases and do basic things with letting people know that you're creating something, you for sure are not about to open up no successful coaching program. You can open it up. I was careful with my words, but I said successful because people can throw together anything. And granted, I hear this a lot with therapists too. I don't know if you heard it. Some therapists will say, oh, now I offer a coaching program because somebody asked me that I do coaching. And if that's the case, please go back and listen to the live we did 2 weeks ago about with Dr. Liz. You should not be throwing out coaching services just because someone said, I need a coach and not a therapist. And you were like, I think I can do that because you don't know what hat you're wearing. That's very dangerous territory. And I tell all of our clients, I hope I don't see you on the front of no magazine that's guinea pig because they always need a guinea pig before a rule like goes into the APA ethics board. So be very careful. Okay.
Exactly. There has to be a plan. So that's another thing too when you think about streams of income. Now, I'm not saying the day that you think about this additional stream of income, you need to create a whole nother business immediately. But when you try it out and you're like, oh, I like this. Okay, I can roll with this. Yes, start getting those things in place.
Yeah.
Now everybody else might say, go ahead, get it together, get your new LLC immediately. It might not work how you want. Maybe you have another LLC sitting there. That'd be great. But I don't say start going all in that way first. Test it out, do your first launch, and then make a decision from there. That'll give you a little bit of wiggle room. But yeah, what Dr. TK was saying, please don't. I don't
So
know. I don't even want to see counselor and coach on the same heading. Like, I don't think those two should be together. They need to be separate websites, still all the things.
yeah.
The other thing too, as we talk about launching a little bit too, and I learned this one from James Whitmore, and that just was an aha moment for me, is he was like, well, what do you want to make? Right. And then it was like he broke it down like, okay, let's just say your first launch, you make this. And then your second launch, you make that. And then your third launch, you make this. So eventually you get there. A lot of times we'll throw out a number. Let's just say you say, oh, I want to make 250. Okay, that's cool. That is doable. But that might not just be your first launch.
Exactly.
And more likely than not, it will not be. So don't say the program didn't work because you didn't make 250 because they said write down your first thing. What it's doing is it's preparing you for that mindset, going right back to the paperwork that you didn't like doing then. How you gonna like doing it now? It's the same thing. So if you can't operate like a 250 business or 500, K business now, how are you gonna operate like that when you're actually there?
Yeah.
Right? So it's all of those things is prepping you, putting you in that mindset, launch after each launch, after debriefing, after debriefing, after debriefing. So if you understand that all of this is a process, right, and having those steps in place, I think that's going to be really helpful, right? Time management, knowing if you have the time to do it, having your team in place, who's your audience, and how to get in front of them to get them on your email list, right?
That,
So you can start sending out all the emails. Building your community, however that may be. Like IG might be your community gym, Facebook might be your community gym. You might actually just have a space that you can have an in-face community, right? If you're part of organizations, all the things, right? And most importantly, we'll go, that's number one. I feel like I'm going backwards, but make sure that the mainstream is maining, right? With having your systems in place and that you don't have to worry about it and that it's ready for if there is a dip, right? So
can I ask you something? Because this is something that we often get actually in the DM. And actually, I got it even from a past mastermind student. So, like, I have posted it in my stories and I did it via email. I didn't do it a lot, actually, at all on Instagram, except for the stories. I had told people, like, hey, I know the last 2 years we did like a conference. Before then, we were doing like smaller, what you had went to, like the VIP experiences, where it's like super limited, like 8 up to 20 people, depending on what we're talking about. But let's just say it's February. So it's mid first quarter. I'm going to give you an example, but then I want you to tell me what you would say if you were like when I first met you. Like, imagine Shayla, February, March 2020. So I was talking to therapists online about I want to start segmenting when we meet in person to only dedicate like a day or two to talk about one stream. So, like, if it's group practice, that's what we're going to talk about as group practice and with specific things. If it's digital products, we're only going to talk about digital product stuff, right? And then the goal will be to leave and execute. And so I had one of our past mastermind students, and she wasn't the only one who asked me this question before, but like, I want to go, or I want to, because you have to apply for interest, but I do both. I do group practice and digital products, but like, which one, hand in both multiple piles, which one do I focus on? But because I knew her, I responded via voice note. And I was like, hey, I know that you do both things well. I actually know you can contribute also to both parts well, because anytime you come to a live event, it's not just about soaking up information, it's about implementation, as you mentioned, but also being able to contribute to the conversation with other people. You're not just about to sit there and milk all the information. You need to talk. And so, and you can't hide. So what I told her is, I was like, what I want you to think about is, what is your goal by the end of the second quarter, like the 90 days? And you need to pick. I can't pick for you, even though I know you're good at both. So, like, let's just say if you never had done DTA, you never did the Tribe, Mastermind, or nothing, but you were interested maybe in digital products and you didn't know it, right? You saw some attractable come online. If I would have came in your aura and said, I got this live event and we're going to do 2 days on digital products, what would be your processing, ideally for a person that know they need to focus on private practice, but they're also interested in digital products? Like, how do they choose? Because I think that's where a lot of people are.
I mean, if that was me, if it's 2020, we're in March, my main wasn't maining. So it would have been hard to even get myself in that frame of mind to even think about.
Why is that? Because you have a different mindset than a lot of people. That's why I'm asking, because not everybody can be tunnel vision. And I'm asking you the same question that Roche asked me, because I was like, I don't know.
Well, one, think about it. If you were having an event, also think about investment wise, right? Do I even have the resources to show up? And then also think about it as, and if people might look at it differently, like dating when you don't have any money. Where are you going? How are we gonna go somewhere you struggling? Like, it doesn't make sense. So it's like, how am I going to show up and think about another product if my main is not going? And it could be, let's just say it was doing well and I didn't see it as doing well because I'm bad at money management. So now it's a thing of, am I really taking care of things on this end before I start looking at something else? And that's no different from when we're investing in a Webmore, ECM, a higher level, or even a DTA for that matter. Well, no, you need the DTA to get your practice together. But just whatever it is, it's just like, okay, so am I in a position to invest in that, to even go there? Or the energy, not even money. Let's just say you have the money because you just have it, right? do you even have the energy to say, I'm really going to work on this and focus on it? So that's how I look at it too. It's like there is the money resource, right? But then there's the time resource and the energy. Do I have all of those three things in place? So every time you think about joining a program, sit on it for 24 hours, weigh the pros and cons. How is this going to help me? And then with digital products, that's a whole new space for us, right? So look, now I'm going. So it's a whole new space. So that's also outside of our realm. So we're about to learn a whole new skill. That's not EMDR. That's not brain spotting. It's not a new CBT. All those things. So now you're about to learn something else. It's easier and probably more conducive for you to focus on getting your practice together before you even start thinking about something new.
Yeah.
Just me, right?
Yeah,
So
no,
it's all.
that's needed to. I wanted you to highlight that though, because people have shiny object syndrome, but they don't want to acknowledge that they have shiny object syndrome. And more than ever right now, money is it's an issue. Like, let's be all the way real. We talked about that in DTA. When I say everybody, we talk about that in DTA, don't mean I'm asking you how much, like where your money at, where your credit at. But I can sense, because I follow a lot of my clients online, I can sense always when something is not right, when I start seeing like a different product every day. And I'm like, where did this product come from? Why are you talking to 5 different people? Why are you offering coaching, therapy, speaking? Like you do all, and you might do all those things well, but when a stranger comes to your platform, it looks like you do too much where you don't even have time to invest in perfecting whatever I need you for. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I would feel. Like every coach that I had, they were the expert at something. That's why I went to them, even though they do a lot of stuff well, you know? And so I just wanted you to like talk about that, because I know that when I talk to like my friends or colleagues or whatever, you know, they'll be like, you know, everybody ain't built, you know, like that. And I get that. And I acknowledge that my brain operates different, but I've also learned, just like I'm sure that you have, you just spoke about it, like you've learned how your brain operates though. And most importantly, I like that you mentioned energy. You have to, as a therapist, know what depletes you. And if you don't understand what depletes you or what makes you anxious, because that's the season I'm in right now, noticing like when I'm starting to feel flustered and I'm like, ooh, I don't need to do that. Many things. And so pay attention to the same thing that you're asking your clients to do in therapy services, and an easier transition if you do want a private practice. Because not everybody wants one. They want to have a job and do digital products. That's fine. But if you do want to have a private practice, please make that your next step and not just go over to like the digital product land because it looks attractive. Because I think people are attracted to the money, especially in this inflated world right now. And that's dangerous territory.
Yeah, we're just some people are just pulling, right? It's like, oh, like you said, shiny object, right? Oh, that looks good. I want to work with them, right? There's people, if you've ever gotten on a call with me or decide that maybe in the future, please know I will turn you around if you have too many things going on. So if you want to trick me and hide and don't tell me all the things, because if you list like 3 things going on, I'm like, well, it doesn't sound like you have space to add something else. I'm not even going to ask you to tell me your time management because I'm overwhelmed listening to it. And I'll just say, it's not time. I don't know when I'll launch again, but just stay tuned to your emails, like, because it's not it right now. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that is so okay, because I don't want you to come in, because this is what happens, right? You come into the program or you sign up for something that Dr. TK has happened. And then what you say is it didn't work. Oh, that didn't work for me. No, you didn't work for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. So let's make sure that we're a good match and you really looking at your time, your energy, right? And I always thank people for their time, and thank you for your time and energy, because it's a lot and it's expensive, right? It's more than the money. And so if you don't have the space for it, let's not do that to each other, because I want to see you. I want to cheer you on. I want to set you up for success. And if you're not in that space, why are you going to do that to me? And why would I do that to you? That's not how I roll.
Is integrity. Let me wrap up by, and I'm gonna share your Instagram too, and you can let everybody know what's happening in your aura as well. I like to recap things in psychological terms because sometimes it makes it stick. As a therapist, right? So when all of us went to, maybe not undergrad, because that may be a little different, but I do believe that all of us chose the grad school that we went to, even though one may have been more conducive to your budget. You still had to choose because you had to apply. I want all therapists who are watching this to think about, as it relates to their business, when you apply to grad school, what are all the things that you did to make sure that the program was running well? You made sure that it was accredited. You made sure that they were able to produce graduates. You made sure that you were very willing to like go to the class, because at least back then, before 2020, there was not a lot of online classes, or at least you couldn't do everything online. How many hell CEs you couldn't even do online? You were only able to do like 6 or something like that. Like you have to do 27 in person, you know what I'm saying? So for the newer licensed clinicians, y'all winning, but not so much, because I believe that y'all been robbed of an experience that you don't know about in terms of going to live events for even CEs. And so again, if you went through all these steps to like graduate, choose grad school, get licensed, continue to stay licensed, it just bothers my soul that, we can't slow down to think about how non-committed we are to our business the same way we were committed to get one license. And sometimes you may think, but it's just a stream of income. First of all, if you're thinking about it just as a stream of income, you will stay an entrepreneur. The reason why the side hustle club is called side hustle is not that I want you to treat it like a side hustle. It is to help you experiment with understanding what it takes to understand the 4 phases that Shayla just shot out, and half of y'all could probably couldn't keep up. But she ain't first to ride this rodeo. You know what I'm saying? When we first talked about 4 phases, she said, "Wait, pre what?" Like, and so it took time. But I just want everybody that's listening to this to know that you have the capacity to be patient. You have the capacity to run the marathon. But if you continue to sprint, what do I always say? You will run out of breath. I don't care who's in the Olympics. They cannot run for 5 days straight, 1,000 miles per hour. They got to stop and get water. They got to talk to their coach, right? So let us know. I'm going to put your Instagram. Let them know what you have going on right now. Even if it's not in the season, I'll put your Instagram on, and then I'll also go over some announcements.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So, yes, Control Shift Balance. That's where you guys can find me. And while you're there, if you link in the bio, if you have even just considered, you don't even have to say you want one, but just thinking about having a membership. And I'm saying this because I give away some great nuggets, right? At least every other week, there is an email that lets you know about like membership education as therapists, not just having a regular membership, but those things that we have to navigate. And so, if that's something that you're thinking about, there's 2 things you can get: the ethics, right, about having a membership as a therapist. And the second one would be the membership guide for therapists A through Z, where you get 26 tips that if you're saying you want to do this on your own, go ahead. You got 26 tips to get started. And if you feel like I need a little bit more help, just keep watching that email. So when I do open up the program again, you'll be the first to be notified. So
that's good.
Yes.
That's good. All right, so let me just do some basic announcements. So some of them, pretty much I've mentioned them. And so we have one thing that is more so running in the background, but I just wanted to highlight that the Digital Side Hustle Club, at least for the last almost 60 days, it's been a $1 trial up to the first 100 people. And then it was at a no-brainer like entry. I ain't gonna say that amount, but it was at a no-brainer entry that's probably cheaper than going to Chick-fil-A and getting a meal, even McDonald's at this point for a family. But the $1 trial is actually going to go away. And when I say very soon, I'm not talking about 30 to 60 days, like very much less. The $1 trial will go away. The $1 trial is 7 days. And what you get to do is go in there and test run yourself. You're not test running the program. You're going to test run yourself to even see if you can commit to understand what is a digital product, what are the phases of a digital product, can you proclaim what your digital product is going to be, and can you go to our Telegram group and participate to get support and show up and ask questions. If you don't want to do that, opt out and cancel. Like it's that simple, right? But what's also going to happen beyond the $1 membership going away is that instead, I'm just going to redirect you to free content, as Shayla had mentioned, like free nuggets. And if you want to learn about the digital product space, we have podcast episodes on it. We have YouTube, but the $1 trial will be removed. And also the low entry rate will be a little bit more than doubled, because the benefit of once you learn digital products, you'll understand beta is that once the program gets off its feet, the value will more than likely go up because the people are putting to work what's in the program. And also I've built out some lessons to go ahead and get you started. So now you just show up and let me help you, right? So that's one. And then you can just go to the same link, drtk.com/links. It's also on Instagram and it's also on the bottom of this video, I believe. But the private practice bootcamp, Shayla is an alumni. So I'll have her say some closing words before we leave. But she's an alumni and DTA support coach. We have some great enhancements and things that are happening in that program. But our boot camp is an immersive experience. We have a Telegram community this round where they got access 35 to 40 days early, where we're starting discussion question threads in there based on our framework, which I'll explain in the boot camp. But the boot camp, we're going to help you clarify your niche. So you will leave knowing your niche unless you're scared and you stay scared. We actually are going to add in a bonus from DTA, which is understanding your worth. So on one of the days of the boot camp, you will be able to be truthful to yourself and calculate how much your time is worth right now, so you can understand why your business is at the level that it is at, or where it will start. And then we'll of course talk about how do you assess the health of your business, which is like a game changer for a lot of our students who join the academy, because like Shayla said, she already had a private practice. Some people don't, but you realize that it's the systems that are going to help you move to the leveraging your time and delegation. So if somebody was on the fence even about like joining a free 3-day boot camp, what is something that you can impart with them on this live today?
Look, there's always two. The first one is, what do you have to lose? It's free. Where can you get 3 days worth of valuable information for something that you already know that you need? That's why you're being tugged in that area anyway, right? Even if it's just one thing you need in your business, out of 3 days, you're bound to get something. The second thing is this health assessment, this private practice health assessment that Dr. TK talks about. I have taken it. Yeah, it's gonna be right in front of your face. It's kind of like when you go to a physical and the doctor's like, yeah, your cholesterol's up. You're like, no, it can't be. And then they want to tell you what you need to do. You need to work out a little more. That's exactly how it is. You're gonna find something that you need to work on that you thought was okay, because maybe you don't look like your cholesterol is one way, whatever that is, right? But it's going to be something that you can work on. And then you can decide at that point if you want to move forward with anything else. But it's not going to hurt you to go in, listen, get with your peers who are experiencing some of the same things that you're experiencing, and see the health of your practice for you to start taking care of it. Because your sick practice is not going to make it through this season. I can tell you that right now. So
yeah, and I'm gonna do a lasting statement. I'm gonna show you how all of these things work together, because I love like rerouting people to resources. And so as Shayla and I had talked about being integral to our brand and what we teach and what we do not teach. Let's just say you're a therapist and you're like, oh wait, she says she does memberships, or you introduce digital products and then you also do private practice. So now we in that space like, oh shoot, which one do I do? What I would recommend is go to the boot camp and do everything, but definitely pay attention. And replays are available for a certain amount of time. Do the assessment. What has happened for a good amount of therapists, because it actually happened after our conference, I was like, do the assessment. And if your private practice is good, because I can't tell you what your private practice is doing, because I don't know. But if your private practice is good based off our assessment, then you make the decision to add the stream, because now you at least have an idea of what little things need to be tweaked, but your scores weren't that off-putting to the point where you can add a stream. So let's just say you like, oh man, like I think Shayla may open the doors to her program like in a while, but I want to be ready. Or I want to join digital product, or I want to meet all of them in person. They gonna be in a certain state or city to like be in person about digital products or group practice, whatever. To see if your private practice is in order, do the assessment. And if you score well, I'll tell you, if you score well, cool. Do not join DTA. I'm very, very strict on that. So if you choose to not listen to me and you join anyway, knowing that you're good, my main question is, were you joining out of FOMO, fear of missing out? Because that's not serving you when your time and money should be placed somewhere else, no matter what direction you go in. So you're amongst a great group of clinicians. I ain't gonna say never, but I have not seen therapists like this with the platform that we create here in the environment, the community. People are not talking this candid. You either be in a program or you won't. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, no, I'm not the coach for that. Go over there. And we did that after we had our conference. I talked to some of her now new students, and I was like, they got their hand in two pots. I said, which one is first? They said membership. I said, go over to membership. Just tell her, TK, you talk to them already. But I don't want you over here if you're not going to perform, because that's not helping anyone. Okay. So thanks everybody. Make sure to go over to Instagram and follow Shayla, get in her DM and let her know how beneficial, what anything takeaways that you had from today. We'll make sure to link this also on the audio podcast so that you can listen to it again. But this stream will be available via replay, and y'all have a great rest of y'all week at the end of February, leap year. All right, y'all. Have a good day. Bye.